In this video, I'm going to be making a very cheap and very easy to build sandblast cabinet. I'm going to be using a storage box and some other cheap items that are readily available. The sandblaster that I'm going to be using with this setup was only £10, so stick around to the end of the video to see how well it performs. I'm starting by marking up the handholds. For these I'm using some duct-in reducers that I got from Toolstation for a couple of quid. I used a Dremel to cut a groove in the plastic, but then I moved on to a soldering iron to mount my way through. These storage boxes are made from pretty brittle plastic, so using heat meant that they wouldn't potentially crack. I marked a hole for a vent on the back using a smaller duct-in reducer and cut this the same way. As a filter for the vent, I added a small sponge which will stop the sand from being blown out of the box. I then drilled some holes in the cutout piece which will form the vent. I used silicone to stick this onto the reducer and also the reducer onto the box. I did the same for both of the front ones. I cut a small hole in the side of the box to fit the air line which will power the sandblaster. Next up is adding the gloves. I used some PVC gauntlet gloves for this and attached them with some double-sided tape. I then used cable ties to make sure these stayed in place. The storage box that I'm using has a grey lid, so I needed to add a clear panel to be able to see inside. I used a leftover piece of acrylic from a previous project and cut this out with the air grinder, making sure to go slowly as acrylic can also crack easily. I then cut out the grey lid which just melted and made a bit of a mess rather than cut it nicely, but I got through it in the end. I cleaned up the edges with a knife blade and then it was ready for the clear panel to be fitted. I stuck this down with silicone and left it overnight to dry. I then came back to test it all out. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, this is a £10 sandblaster that I bought out of curiosity to see how bad it was, but it's actually a lot better than I expected. I'm just using some kiln dried sand here, just to test it out rather than proper blast medium, but as you can see, it actually works quite well. The blast cabinet's obviously small, but I don't have a huge workshop. You can easily use a larger box to increase the capacity. When I eventually get a bigger workshop, I'll definitely be making a larger version, but this is really handy for cleaning up small parts for now. As always, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.